Right, so my name's Jane Robinson and I'm the Waste and Recycling Officer at Ryedale District Council, and I'm here to talk to you about recycling plastics in Ryedale. So I'll just run through all the recycling options we've got, and there's probably more, but I've just listed a few here. So as you're probably aware, we operate a curbside dry recycling service, operating on 3 streams using boxes. We have plastic bottles, tins, cans and aerosols in one box, paper and card in a bag or a box, and glass bottles and jars in another box. We have a separate chargeable curbside garden waste service in the brown bin, which contributes to our recycling performance. We have mini recycling centres or bring sites, which in addition to the curbside materials we can recycle, you can recycle textiles, foil, beverage cartons and paper cups there. Usually located in car parks, sometimes they're in village hall car parks, and they're operated by Ryedale Council. There's also household waste recycling centres, and we can now recycle hard plastics at some of the HWRCs, and they're run by the North Yorkshire County Council. Supermarkets also offer recycling, batteries and plastic film and bags, but I'm not certain whether we can do that at the moment with the film and bags with the COVID. There's also some fantastic community-led recycling going on using the TerraCycle company, which I'm sure you're probably all aware, but I just thought I'd run through that. So I just thought I'd bring together some information about the plastic bottles that are recycled and the volume. So over the last 4 years, you can see a gradual increase in the amount of plastic bottles we've recycled at curbside and the bring sites. And just this last year, it's leapt up by about 50 tonnes to 469 tonnes, which I believe some of that will be due to the COVID effect, in that with lockdowns and people working from home, it's transferred waste from workplaces and people travelling on the go to actually increasing the amount of waste that's produced at home. So just going on to plastics, the type of plastics we recycle at curbside are plastic bottles, and they're the type PET and HDPE types of bottles. The reason we recycle these types of bottles is that they're more easy to recycle, they're a high quality product to recycle, they're in demand by the reprocessors because it's such a high quality product that can be recycled, and there's a ready market for it. So as you can see here, there are a number of different types of plastics. Plastic bottles are usually, as I say, the type 1 and 2, which is the PET and the HDPE. You can also see that PP5 type plastics can also be recycled, but they're not as easy to recycle as 1 and 2. And I'll come on to why we don't collect this type at curbside. So just this week, I've been and raided my fridge to just show you how difficult it is to actually identify which plastics can be recycled. So we various types of yogurts, and one of the pack of 4 yogurts has very clear labelling. The sleeve you can recycle, the lid don't recycle, and the pot don't recycle. And when I looked at the plastic pot, there was no plastic type printed on the bottom of the pot. Another pack of 4 yogurts, a different type, one of my daughters prefers another type. All the label said was please recycle, And when I looked at the pots at the bottom, there was no plastic type on there to say what type of plastic it was. My potato salad pot was actually PET 1, and that's got a label saying that it's widely recycled. And then I've got an individual yogurt pot here, which is a PP5, and there was no information on the pot about whether it could be recycled or not. So you can see how confusing it is for people to know whether they can recycle the plastic pots or not. We also have an issue in North Yorkshire that the more difficult to separate these pots, and there's no facility within North Yorkshire to actually separate them. So other councils in North Yorkshire do collect pots and trays at curbside, but they have to ship them further afield, and sometimes some actually pay reprocessors to take the plastics off their hands. Mixing other types of plastics in with the bottles reduces the quality of the product, making it harder to sell on and impacting on the income that we receive as a council, which contributes to the cost of the collection service itself. Just collecting the bottles as well, because it is a high quality product, it also keeps the plastic bottles in the UK, so that we know that the plastic bottles stay in the UK and are reused in the UK rather than being shipped abroad. Our recycling collection vehicles are almost at full capacity. So to actually bring on board another stream of a different type of plastics, you know, we'd have to look at some investment in some new vehicles. So what happens to the plastic bottles that are collected? Well, the plastic bottles and cans are collected at curbside, and they're taken to Kirby Mispitten Waste Transfer Station, which is operated by Your Waste. Those bottles and cans are then bulked into larger vehicles and transferred to York, to the Harewood Wyn Materials Reclamation Facility, that's also operated by Your Waste. At that facility, the plastic bottles are separated away from the cans. The plastic bottles are then sold on to reprocessors based in the UK as a mixed grade plastics for recycling. They'll then sort the bottles into different grades of plastic bottles using infrared technology. They'll segregate the different types of plastics. These are then granulated, washed, pelletized. The PET bottles are reused to produce new drinks bottles, food packaging, and fleece and polyester. The HDPE type bottles are remade into plastic bottles again, and things like drain pipes. Now, there is a video here that when we circulate the slides afterwards that you can watch later, but we'll move on with the presentation so that we can get more questions in at the end. So, plastic pots. So, what about the plastic pots that are placed in the rubbish bin? What happens to those? So, the black or green bin waste, household waste, general household waste, is taken to Allerton Park Energy from Waste Recovery Plant. Recyclable plastic and metal are removed, but it's of a lower grade quality due to the contamination. So we really want people to keep the plastic bottles in the boxes, and plastic pots are taken to Allerton Park, and if anything does get into that waste stream, it's taken out before it's incinerated. The majority of food waste is then washed away to be anaerobically digested to produce biogas. The remaining waste is then used to produce energy through incineration, and the residual ash that's remaining is used for aggregate in the construction industry. I've put a link on there as well to the Amy website, so there's more information there. You can do a virtual tour of the site, and hopefully soon they might be letting people back on site for tours in person. So contamination. Contamination is generally very low. Sorry, sorry, I'm just having to go back a bit. That's it. My graph wasn't showing properly, and I ended up going on a few slides. So generally, contamination is very low. And what this graph is a graph of all the plastic bottles and cans that we collected in March 2021. And here you can see that the non-recyclates amounted to 1% of all the plastic and cans that we collected. Only 1% was made of non-recyclates. A couple of years ago, we also did a residual waste composition survey where we took a couple of lorry loads of residual waste, that's the general household rubbish, and we tipped it separate to where the rest of the rubbish goes, and we got someone to sort through it and actually segregate it into piles, sort it into piles, so that we could see what percentage of recyclable items were ending up in the household rubbish waste stream. And what we found was that on the rural round, there's 1.3% of the waste was plastic bottles, and 3.6% of the town round was made up of plastic bottles. So there is still some bottles ending up in the residual waste stream, but that would be taken out at Allerton Park. I'm just showing you a slide about hard plastics here because a couple of the household waste recycling centres that are run by the North Yorkshire County Council, Ryedale and Seymour Carr, can now take hard plastics for recycling. Now, they gave me some examples of plastic garden tables and chairs, water butts, watering cans, washing up bowls, plastic buckets, etc. I mean, you can read the rest. These are delivered to a reprocessor within North Yorkshire. There's also a link to a video on this presentation that you can view later. They're processed into polymer flakes and pellets, and they're remade into garden furniture and window frames. So I think that's a fairly new development because I wasn't aware that was happening. So future plans. In the short term, we're improving we aim to improve and refurbish our mini recycling centres, and we're also going to have some awareness campaigns to promote recycling and waste minimisation. We're also soon launching a new website, and as part of that, we'll be improving the recycling information that's on the website. Mid-term to long-term, there's some really exciting times coming ahead in the world of waste and recycling, because the government is currently consulting on recycling and sort of drastically changing the way waste is collected, and it's sort of the biggest change in legislation in the last 20 years. So the first consultation, which you can all go online, I'll provide the links on the slide, you can all go online and have your say. So the consistency in household and business recycling What that aims to do is, across the nation, have a consistent set of materials collected. So on top of what Ryedale currently collects, we would be collecting plastic trays and pots, foil, plastic films and bags. They're proposing to introduce separate weekly food waste collections, and a free minimum standard garden waste collection service as well. So you can probably see that this is going to have really exciting improvements in recycling in Ryedale over the next couple of years. So the implementation is by 2023-24. So over the next couple of years, we're going to be working towards, if this consultation, if this proposal is agreed, then we'll be working over the next couple of years to introduce that. Our council have already made an aim of introducing separate food waste collections. So, you know, we would be working towards that anyway. So the next consultation is the extended producer responsibility. And this is aimed at the packaging around products, and it's fundamentally changing the way that waste collection is funded. So businesses that put a product on the market will pay a fee to collect and recycle that packaging material. Now, the more recyclable the packaging, the less the fees they'll pay. So this will sort of push industry to actually improve the recycling, the packaging, the recyclability of the packaging around their materials. It's also pushing for proposing clearer and consistent labelling. And if you can remember my fridge raid and those pictures, that will drastically improve that. So people will be able to pick up a product and actually see what exactly can be recycled and can't be recycled, and then they can make an informed decision whether they then want to buy that product if it's not very recyclable. The government is also consulting at the moment on a deposit return scheme. The aim of this is to reduce littering and boost recycling levels, and it's aimed at drink containers. So retailers will host a reverse vending machine where people can take the drinks containers, and they'll pay a deposit on the price of the drink, then they'll consume it, they'll take it back to the shop, pop it in a reverse vending machine where it'll be scanned, and they'll be able to get the deposit back. Now the consultation involves whether it's an on-the-go scheme, so whether it's just smaller bottles that are consumed on the go, travelling to work, or whether it's an all-in model that's used, whereby any drinks container, no matter what the size, even if it's consumed at home, that you would be able to take that back to the shop and get your deposit back. They're also talking about having clearer labelling on drinks containers to help with to help people know whether they can take it back to the reverse vending machine. So that's another consultation that would be really good if you could get involved and have your say. They're also consulting on the waste prevention programme as well, which actually, if you think about it, this is one of the more important ones, but it's been overshadowed by the big changes that are being proposed in the other ones. And the waste prevention programme is focusing on repair and reuse, which I know a lot of your members are interested in. So that's another one to have a look at. This bottom one isn't a consultation. From April 22, there's going to be a plastic packaging tax on plastic packaging with less than 30% recycled plastic. So that will encourage producers to use recycled plastic. So how can you help? I mean, the first thing is to reduce the amount of waste we produce. Think about what we buy, the amount of packaging and the amount of waste that's created. Check the labels to see if the packaging is recyclable before you buy it. The next step, reuse. When you have finished with something, can it be reused? I know Peter mentioned about the bring and take days. There's car boot sales, there's online ways of selling things, and also free sites where you can give away what you don't need anymore. And then lastly, recycling. You can help by washing and squashing your plastic bottles and placing the materials in the correct box. I've put a link on here to a recycling locator that you can go on that website, and if you have something, a product that you want to dispose of, you can see whether you can recycle it locally. I've also put a link to an organisation called RAP, who do a lot of campaigning for the circular economy, so that might be useful. There's lots of hints and tips on the North Yorkshire website as well, so I've just put a link on there for you as well. So top 10 tips to try and go plastic free. Now some of these are probably pretty standard things that maybe many of you are probably already doing, but if we all gave up one extra of those things, you know, it could really make a difference. I won't go through all these now, but you can look at them later. And I've also put a link on there to My Plastic Free Life, if anybody's interested, which has a guide to going plastic free. It has some more ideas on there. So thank you all for listening. And if you want, we want to go back to Paul and open the floor for questions.